Old records fall as snow blankets East Coast. It came up the coast on the last weekend of autumn, a ghostly apparition of midwinter, roaring into the solitude of cities and countrysides, from the Carolinas to Cape Cod, with blizzardlike ferocity. It closed airports, roads, and malls, and recreated Whittier's snowbound American landscape for some 60 million people. And by the time the two-day storm had churned to oblivion in the Atlantic, at least a dozen states had been buried. It was not quite the storm of the century, but 2 feet of snow lay across eastern Long Island and parts of Virginia, West Virginia, and New Jersey, and nearly that much in Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Rhode Island. Old records fell in Washington, 16.4 inches, Baltimore, 20.5 inches, and Upton, New York, the Suffolk County site of a National Weather Service Center, 26.3 inches. The heaviest snowfall was in Wintergreen, Virginia, which had 30 inches. There were odd tales of 2 trains and a jitney bus gone crazy. Helena E. Williams, the president of the Long Island Railroad, reported that approximately 50 riders were stranded, shuttled, and towed aboard 4 trains in a 7-hour ordeal that began at Pennsylvania Station at 1:17 a.m. and ended at 8:45 a.m. In between, there were snowdrifts, ice, an engine breakdown, and no heat on a 3-hour stretch. And in New Jersey, passengers aboard a train and a bus, both operated by NJ Transit, had a very close call on Saturday night. Officials said a bus with 26 passengers stalled on snow-covered railroad tracks as a train with 38 passengers approached. The bus riders were evacuated just moments before the vehicle was struck by the train. There was a terrific impact noise, said a passenger on the train, and the rail car rocked violently from side to side. I feared that we had derailed, that the car was going to tip over. He was relieved to learn that no one was killed and only 2 people aboard the train were injured. A Hampton jitney left New York City at 9:30 p.m. Saturday with fewer than a dozen passengers and got to Southampton at 6:30 a.m. Sunday, a 9-hour adventure in the storm. On Sunday, some airports reopened and flights resumed, although thousands and thousands of travelers remained stranded in a backup of schedules that was expected to last for days. Snowplows cleared most of the major highways, and many streets, children and adults frolicked in enchanted parks, and life struggled toward normalcy as residents began to dig out of what, for many, was the biggest snowstorm in many years. Federal offices in Washington were to remain closed on Monday. As the sun came out, residents emerged with shovels, sleds, and cameras. States of emergency were lifted in some places. Malls and businesses reopened, and most buses and railroads resumed near normal schedules, although Long Island Railroad service was limited. New York City was spared the brunt of the storm, recording 10.9 inches in Central Park, 14.2 inches at John F. Kennedy International Airport, and 8.8 inches at LaGuardia Airport. There were many flight cancellations. The mayor said that thousands of sanitation workers, plowing around the clock, had cleared all major arteries, but with many cars still buried in curbside drifts, alternate side parking rules were suspended for Monday. Michael R. Bloomberg also said schools would be open on Monday. As the storm roared up the coast, it slammed hard into eastern Long Island, dropping at least 2 feet of snow in several communities. Many Long Islanders reached back decades for the last comparable snowfall. The only ones I can relate to were the storms of 77 and 78, said the owner of RBR Melville Snow Contractors. We just got hammered, said the Deputy Commissioner of the Suffolk County Fire Rescue and Emergency Services. Drifts up to 7 feet on the runways forced the closing of MacArthur Airport for the first time since it was built in 1949. From 9 p.m. Saturday to 11 a.m. Sunday, and even after it reopened, most flights were canceled. Drivers across the region were urged to stay off treacherous roads. Scores of accidents were reported. There were isolated power failures in New Jersey. The storm, which walloped the mid-Atlantic states and the nation's capital on Saturday, and moved across the metropolitan area and the Northeast on Sunday, shut down many airports in the region. While the major New York area ones, Kennedy, LaGuardia, and Newark Liberty International, remained open, it was just a technicality. Blizzard-like conditions forced airlines to cancel 750 flights. Stranded passengers clogged the Delta terminal at LaGuardia. It was not all misery, though. Outside the Brooklyn Public Library, on their way to Prospect Park with a sled, Angie Lee and her husband each held a hand of their son, who was 2 years old, and lofted him over a pile of slush. Bundled in a brown snowsuit with blue mittens, he was happy. He's happy even if we don't make it to the park. Around New York City, city parks were dreamscapes of snow meadows and dark woodlands in silhouette. It was the last day of autumn, and thousands of children and adults, muffled to the eyes, were out enjoying the pre-winter spectacle, gliding down hills on sleds, snowboards, and skis. This was a major snowstorm, and it shut down Christmas shopping on the weekend with a 40 to 80% decline in shopping traffic. And again, these are more signs of the end times. Transition days. A great transition is happening, an ongoing process happening day by day all around the world. And there are many kinds of signs.